This call is now being recorded.
In the last class, we have discussed about page replacement algorithms. If you have remember, page replacement algorithm. Why we need to replace a page? Why? Because we will be having limited number of frames in the main memory, and according to our consideration that we need not have all the pages in the main memory to execute one particular process. Suppose one process is there, like which is having 4 pages, and in the main memory if we have one page, then it is sufficient to execute this particular process. Whenever it needs a second page, then only it will request the desired page that can be brought into the main memory. This is what we have considered. This is called demand paging. We have seen earlier simple paging, where we need to have all the pages into the main memory, then only we could able to execute. But in demand paging, that restriction is relaxed, and whenever we want one particular page, then only we can request to the operating system. Then operating system will bring that required page to the main memory from the backing store or hard disk or secondary memory. Okay, this is what demand paging. Next, whatever the desired page that we wanted to bring into the main memory, for that we need to have one free frame, isn't it? One free frame if you have, into that we can bring the required or desired page. But if there is no free frame exist, then one of the pages in this particular primary memory or main memory, we have to replace. So which page we will be replacing, that is the question. For that we are having several algorithms. We have seen one is first in first out algorithm. That is, whatever the page we have loaded first into the main memory, that we will select to replace. That is first in first out. But in this particular first in first out, there is an anomaly or the problem or the limitation called Biladi's anomaly. We have Biladi's anomaly in the sense, in general, intuitively, if the number of frames increased, suppose we are having 9 frames here, let us say, if we extend it to 13 frames, okay, if we extend it to 9 to 13 frames, then usually the number of page faults will be decreased. This is what the intuition. But whenever we use first in first out page replacement algorithm, in some occasions the number of page faults will be increased even though we increase number of frames. Okay, that is called Biladi's anomaly. It is abnormal behavior. In general, whenever we increase the number of frames, if you increase, automatically page faults will be decreased. But whenever we use first in first out, for some reference strings, okay, some order, we will be increasing the number of frames, but page faults will also be increased. That is abnormal thing. This abnormal behavior we call it as Biladi's anomaly, and this Biladi's anomaly exists in first in first out page replacement algorithm. Next, second one which we have seen is optimal page replacement algorithm. Optimal in the sense, the number of page faults, the name itself indicates the number of page faults will be optimal, in the sense it will be as minimum as possible. That is called optimal page replacement algorithm. Practically, what we require to apply optimal page replacement algorithm is future referencing. That is, in the future, what are the pages that we will be requesting, that we may need. If you know that, then only we could able to select the page to replace. That is called optimal page replacement algorithm. Definitely the number of page faults will be less in optimal page replacement algorithm, but what is the limitation is we need to know the future reference string, in which order we require pages. That is required. Okay, next, third one is least recently used. In the sense, we will be seeing in the reverse, like what are the pages that we have brought into the main memory and we have used. That sequence we will be referring in the reverse order. Then whatever the page we have used least recently, that page we will select to replace. That is least recently used. Compared to FIFO, least recently used is nearer to the optimal in most of the cases. That's why in practical real-time applications we will be using least recently used most of the times. Okay, these are the page replacement algorithms we have seen. Yeah, any doubts, man, in this? Yeah, page replacement, this is usual behavior, that is number of frames we are increasing here. Try to understand, number of frames are 1 2 3 4 like this, we are increasing in this manner. Then number of page faults, whenever we have only one frame we are having these many page faults, but if you increase to 2 frames then it is decreasing. If you increase to 3 frames, that is we are increasing number of frames, automatically number of page faults are decreasing. Like this it is go on decreasing. Okay, this is usual behavior. But if you use first in first out, then what will happen is number of frames here is 1 and the number of page faults are 12, 2, 12, 3, it is decreasing. But if you increase the number of frames, here there is an abnormal behavior, that is number of frames are increasing and number of page faults are also being increased. This is called Belady's anomaly. Okay, next optimal, as we have discussed optimal, we need to know the future. Okay, we will be seeing the future. In the future, which one we may need, that we will not select to replace, which one we don't require in the near future, that we will be selecting to replace. But what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage here? We need to know the future, then only we could able to apply this optimal page. Next practically feasible algorithm and better algorithm is least recently used. In this one we will be seeing in reverse, like you consider this particular state 201 and we want 0, 0 is present already. Okay, 3 we want, 3 is not present, so page fault will occur here. Then we will be seeing in the reverse order, like 0 we have used recently only, so we will not select 0 to replace. Next 2 we have used next recently, so 2 also we will not select, but 1 we have used least recently, so 1 we will select to replace. So now 2 will be 2 will remain as it is, 0 will remain as it is, but 1 is being replaced with like this. We will be seeing in the reverse order. Then whatever the page which we have used least recently, that page we will be replacing. This is least recently used. And for the same reference string, FIFO means we have got 15 page faults. Optimal means I think we have got 9 page faults. For this least recently used, we have got 12 page faults. But optimal practically not feasible. So least recently used we will be using in most of the applications. Yeah. Next, if several other algorithms are there, but those algorithms are out of the scope of this subject. Yeah. Next, allocation of frames. Allocation of frames in the sense where we will be having frames. In the main memory, we will be having frames. In the main memory, it will be divided into equal size partitions. These partitions we call it as frame. This is a frame, this is a frame. Like this, we will be having several frames in the main memory, as we have discussed earlier. Yeah. Now, for a process, we will be having several pages. What is the size of the page? Size of the page will be equal to frame size. Like this, we will be having several pages for each and every process. Okay, now let us say this is P0, this is P1, this is P2, P3. Like this, we are having 4 processes. Now, how many frames we can allocate for one particular process? Let us say P0 requires 4 pages. Actually, P0 is having 4 pages. So how many frames required? 4 frames. But according to our discussion, there is a relaxation that we need not have all the pages into the main memory. So we can have some pages only. Whenever we require some other pages, those we can request and we can get into main memory. Okay. Now, how many frames will be allocated for one particular process? How many frames will be allocated for one particular process that can be fixed? That is called allocation of frames. Like for P0, 2 frames will be allocated. For P1, let us say 3 frames allocated. For P2, 2 frames. Like this, there will be some fixed number of frames that we can allocate for each process. Okay, this is called allocation of frames. Now you consider P naught actually having 4 pages, but how many frames we have allocated for P naught? 2. So any 2 pages can be loaded here. Whenever we want another page, what will happen, that we will see. Okay, you consider P1 is having 5 pages, but P1 is allocated with only 3 frames. So maximum 3 pages of P1 can be loaded into P1, loaded into main memory. Next, P2 allocated with 2 frames. So maximum 2 pages of P2 can be loaded into main memory. This is what allocation of frames. Here, basically, what we have to understand is there will be some number of frames allocated for each process. Okay, that is the conclusion you have to understand. And while allocating here, there are two major allocation schemes, that is fixed allocation, priority allocation. Fixed allocation in the sense, irrespective of number of pages that we have in the process, like P naught is having 4, P1 is having 5, P2 is having, I think, 6, P3 is also having 6, let's say. Then irrespective of this requirement, even P4 may have some 10 pages, but we will allocate a fixed number of frames, like 2 frames for each process. Like that fixed allocation we will do. Then what will happen, it may result so many page faults. Why? Because P4 is having 10 pages, but only 2 pages are present. So there is more chance that whenever we try to execute P4, more page faults will occur. Okay, that is fixed allocation. Let's see that. In this fixed allocation also, two types of things we can consider, like equal allocation, proportional allocation. Equal allocation in the sense, as we have discussed, suppose if we have 10 frames in the main memory, and for each we are having 5 process, then for each process 2 frames we can allocate, isn't it? 10 frames we are having, so for each process we can allocate 2 frames. That is called equal allocation. Irrespective of the number of pages that we have in each process, we will be allocating same number of frames. That is called equal allocation. This is part of fixed allocation. Next, second one is proportional allocation. Proportional allocation means what is the size, that means what is, how many pages we are having in each process and how many frames are there. Accordingly, we will be choosing how many frames can be allocated. This is called proportional allocation. Here you can observe Si is the size of the process Pi, and S is total size. Okay, total size of all the process. Next, total number of frames we are denoting as M. And now the allocation for one particular process, that is AI, is nothing but Si by S into M. Okay, let us see some example. M is nothing but number of frames. How many frames we are having in the main memory? That is 64. Next, S1, that means for the first process, what is the size? 10 pages you can consider. S2 is a second process size, that is 127 pages, let's say. Next, A1, for the first process, how we will allocate? 10 by total size is 137, that is capital S. 137 multiplied by how many frames we are having? How many frames we are having? 64. So like this we will do. Actually it is 64. So then how many frames we can allocate, that we will be getting. Next, here for the second process also, what is the requirement? What is the total size is 127, and total sum of the all the process size is 137 multiplied by number of frames, that is 64. Then we will be getting 57. Okay, 57. So 4 frames will be allocated for first process, 57 frames will be allocated for second process. This is called proportional allocation. Earlier, suppose if we have 20 frames in the main memory and 5 process, so for each process we will be allocating 4 frames. Sorry, 100 frames we are having, 5 process, then for each process we will be allocating 20. Of course, same thing here, 10 frames 5 process 2, 100 frames 5 process 20, like this you can consider. Yeah, this is equal allocation. Whenever we use equal allocation, what will happen? Yeah, equal allocation if you use, then for the process which requires let us say 60 pages, 60 frames, also we will be giving only 6 or 5, whatever the fixed number of frames we have decided, that number of frames only we will be allocating. That is equal allocation, article difficulty. But proportional allocation means what is the size of the process, accordingly we will be deciding how many frames can be allocated. This is called fixed allocation. Next, another one is priority allocation. Priority allocation in the sense, suppose process 1, process 2, process 3 are there. According to the priority of each process, like it is having the priority 10, it is having the priority 12, it is having priority 15. So as it is having more priority, for P3 we will be giving, for P3 we will be giving more number of frames, and next priority is for P1. So next more number of frames will be allocated for P1. Next we will be allocating for P2. Like this, based upon the priority, we will be choosing how many number of frames to be given. Okay. Today we have seen allocation of frames. That is, if we have multiple process with several pages, then how many frames we can allocate? This is called allocation of frames. In this, we are having two allocation schemes. One is fixed allocation, another one is priority allocation. In the fixed allocation, two are there, that is equal size and proportional allocation. Equal allocation, proportional allocation. Equal means for every process same number of frames. Proportional means depending upon the size of the frame. Priority allocation means depending upon the process priority, we will be giving number of frames. If a process priority is more, then more number of frames will be allotted. Okay, this is called priority allocation. Yeah, this is what you call frame allocation. Next, after allocating, now we have to replace the page. As we have discussed earlier, page replacement algorithms, these all things we will be using. Okay, that's fine. Now let us assume we are having 3 process in the main memory, P0, P1, P2. For P0, how many frames allocated? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. For P1, 2 frames, 1 and 2. For P2, 2 frames, 1 and 2. Now whenever P0 requires, let us say P0 is having 5 frames, 5 pages, P1 is having 3, P2 is having 4. Okay, these number of pages we are having in P1, P0, T1, P2. Now P0 is having one more page outside of the main memory, right? This is the main memory. P0 is having one more page outside of the main memory. Whenever it requires that page, then one of the frames needs to be selected, one of the page needs to be replaced, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. So all frames are occupied. Now we wanted to bring 5th page from the P0, that is from the outside we have to bring. Then we are having 2 types of choices, like one of these 4 can be replaced, any of these 4 can be replaced, or we can select from these, or we can select from this. Okay, these are the 2 possibilities. One is within the process, one page which is not required now, that can be replaced, that is first choice. Okay, second one is out of all the other pages that we have, from those we will be selecting one. Okay, this is the second choice. So first choice is nothing but within the process other pages can be replaced, that is called local replacement. Okay, local replacement or local allocation or local replacement. Next, if you consider other process as well, then that is called global replacement or global allocation. Simple thing. As we have discussed earlier, number of frames for each process will be decided. Based upon that, those many pages of that particular process only we can load into main memory. Okay, fine. Now we wanted to have other page, then what we can do? One is local replacement or local allocation. In this, whatever the pages of that particular process we have in the main memory, out of those we will be selecting one to replace, that is local replacement. Next, global replacement in the sense remaining all other process, by considering remaining all other process pages, we will be selecting one, we will be choosing one to replace. That is global replacement. See, global replacement process selects a replacement frame from the set of all frames. One process can take a frame from another. One process can take a frame from another. This also can be selected. This is called global replacement. Okay, but what is the what you call disadvantage or challenge here is whenever we replace other process, then we have to intimate to that process that require whatever the page you have in the main memory, that is moving outside of the main memory. That's what we have to indicate to the respective process. That is the overhead. Next, local replacement is each process selects from only its own set of allocated frames. We have 4 frames. Out of these 4 frames, only one of the frame we will be selecting to replace. That is called local replacement. Okay. In general, we will be using local replacement most of the times. Yeah. Next, this non-uniform memory access, simply I will tell one intuition, like we will be having several CPUs in the main memory, in the system. Let us say this is a CPU 1, this is CPU 2, CPU 3, like this we are having. Now, we are having memory units also several, okay, several memory units are there. This is M1, M2, M3, like this, so memory units we are having. Now, whatever the processing is done by C1, okay, on one particular memory unit, let us say M2, that should be associated with C1. C2, suppose C2 is processing on M1, C3 is processing on M3, then some association will be present between CPU and corresponding memory units. CPU and corresponding memory units. CPU, memory unit, like this. But this CPU can able to, as this is part of same system, this CPU can access this as well. This CPU can access other memory unit elements as well. Now the question is, whatever the dedicated memory units for this C1 we have, with that much speed, this C1 could not able to access M1. Next, C2, for C2, M1 is the dedicated memory unit. So for C2 to access M2, it cannot access with that much speed as it could able to access M1. Similarly, C3 with M3 could able to access more fastly compared to M1 and M2. Okay, this is called non-uniform memory access. Try to understand, for every computational element like a CPU, there will be an associated memory element. Computational element, memory unit. Computational element, memory unit. Like this we will be having. And these all are part of one system only. So now this computational element can be accessed, this one as well. This one can access this one. This one can access this. This one can access like this. So we could able to access any other. But as this one is dedicated for this, so the speed will be more whenever this computational element is accessing this memory, but it will be less whenever it is trying to access other memory elements. That is called non-uniform memory access. Okay, due to this it is occurring because every computational element will be associated with several memory units. So whatever the associated memory elements we have, with those we could able to access fastly compared to other things. Yeah. Next, this is a very important definition that you need to understand the concept. Simple thing, but it is an important one. Understand, here we are having main memory. Okay, main memory contains several frames. Now we are having several process P0, P1, P2, like this. We are having several process. Now P0 related pages will be there here. P1 related pages will be there. P0, P1. Next P2 related. Yeah, P0, P1, P2 related pages are there. Now if we have this kind of thing, then whenever we want other page means one of the pages can be replaced, then we could able to get the desired page. This entire thing, you know. Now you consider we are having the main memory, same main memory, okay, and we are having several frames. In these frames, only first two filled, okay, first two filled with, let us say, P0. Now, what CPU will sense or operating system will sense is main memory is empty in the sense most of the main memory is empty, so it could able to bring other process. So why it has to bring other process is, how many processes are being present in the main memory right now? Only one process, so only one process is being executed. Suppose if it brings two process, then at a time two processes will be in the main memory, so the level of multi-programming will be increased. Suppose three processes are present in the main memory, then CPU could able to shift from one process to another process rapidly, so the level of multi-programming will be increased. Understand? So by sensing that most of the frames are empty, what CPU will do? It will try to increase the number of process that are present in the main memory. In turn, it will increase the level of multi-programming. Okay, this is the intuition. Now, what CPU will do? It will bring another process. Okay, fine. Next, it will it will sense there are more number of empty frame, so it will bring another process. Okay, this is another process. Next, another process. Next, another process. Like this, we will be getting P1 here, P2, P3, P4. Like this, so many process will be loaded. Okay. Now P2 requires another page. Then as it has increased level of multi-programming by loading more number of process into the main memory, there are no free frames exist. So it has to replace one of the process page. Okay, let us consider we have to replace this one. We have to replace this one. Then this P3 will be moved, that is swapped out. Then another page will be loaded. Next, again P4 requires another page. Then one of the page needs to be swapped out. Then required page will be swapped in. So again, it has to bring the desired page. So page faults will occur rapidly whenever we consider this kind of thing. Like we are having some pages only loaded into the main memory, remaining in order to fill or in order to increase the level of multi-programming, what CPU will do is, it will try to load more number of process into the main memory. Then automatically here one process, here another process, here another process. Like this, so many process will be loaded. Now, suppose another page required by any of these process, then definitely one of the process needs to be swapped out. Then another process, another page can be loaded, that is swap in. So swap in, swap out process will be done more frequently. Okay, due to more number of page faults. Due to more number of page faults, it is being done. Okay. Now, if you observe, 5 frames are there. 5 pages are loaded. Now another page we want means one of the 5 we have to replace. Then CPU will be spending its time to swap out, swap in. Next, immediately swap out, swap in. Next, immediately swap out, swap in. Like this, most of the time, CPU will be spend its time to perform swap out, swap in only. This particular limitation or overhead, we call it as thrashing. Thrashing in the sense, instead of doing useful work or useful processing or computational work by the CPU, what CPU will do? It will spend more time to swap out, swap in. Swap out, swap in will not make any progress in the process execution, isn't it? Just it swap out, swap in is nothing but bringing the required page into the main memory by swapping out unnecessary page from the main memory. So it will not progress any process execution. Okay, so unnecessarily CPU is spending more time, so automatically the CPU utilization is less, right? This problem we call it as thrashing. Okay, this is very important topic. Even in technical interviews also, what is meant by thrashing means you should be in a position to tell at least this sentence. CPU will spend more time in swap out and swap in rather than processing. That can be told. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts? Yeah. Please respond, ma. Any doubts? Yes, Rohan, are you listening? Okay, thank you. Yeah, from here you can understand CPU utilization is considered in y-axis and the degree of multiprogramming is in x-axis. Now, if you try to increase the degree of multiprogramming, then CPU utilization will be improved. Okay, automatically. That is the number of processes that we load into the main memory. If you increase automatically, the multiprogramming level will be increased. Then CPU utilization will be more. But after certain point, what will happen is more number of processes will be in the main memory, but it will CPU will spend more time to more time to perform swap out swap in only, so automatically CPU utilization will be decreased drastically. This is called thrashing. From here it is called thrashing. That is if you keep on increasing the degree of multiprogramming, then after certain point the CPU utilization will be fall down. That is nothing but thrashing. From this diagram also you can understand more clearly. Yeah. So with this we have completed what you call virtual memory concept. Basically in the virtual memory we have seen what is meant by demand paging, then page replacement algorithms like FIFO, optimal and LRU, and afterwards what is meant by frame allocation, next local and global replacement, these we have seen. Next finally thrashing. These are the concepts we have seen with respect to virtual memory. Okay, now we will be seeing one. Yeah. The name itself indicating mass storage system, in the sense if you remember, initially we have started like this. CPU will be having some registers, then we will be having main memory. CPU will be having some registers are almost internal part of the CPU, but these are limited, so we cannot store much data into CPU, much data into these registers. Next, CPU would able to access main memory directly. So main memory is nothing but RAM. So we will be having certain amount of main memory. Next, afterwards we will be having hard disk. But in order to execute any of these programs, these programs needs to be loaded into main memory. Then only CPU could able to access it and execute. Okay, this is what we have seen. But here we have seen the concept called virtual memory. That is, programmer need not worry about how much amount of RAM he has, and how he has, how much large programs he could able to write. All these things he need not worry by considering what you call large amount of main memory exist. By assuming that he is having large amount of main memory, he will be writing the programs. That is nothing but virtual memory. That illusion we call it as virtual memory. And according to this virtual memory we have seen several topics. Now we are moving to this particular storage, that is called hard disk or secondary memory, or this mass storage systems. that is huge amount of data if you wanted to store, then we will be going for secondary memory. Okay, this is called main memory or physical memory or primary memory. Physical memory or main memory or even memory also will be considered as RAM only. Okay, secondary memory we will be using to store data permanently in general, and how we will be having the secondary memory or the hard disk structure, that we will be seeing in the previous classes. Orally I have explained for some requirement, but I will show you the diagram, then you can understand more clearly. Now, yeah, this is the diagram. Here you can understand, this is the let us assume this as the hard disk. Okay, hard disk drive. This is hard disk drive. Here we are having one thing called these. Okay, these are nothing but plotters. These are nothing but plotters. This is one plotter, this is another plotter, this is another plotter. Okay, and these all plotters. Okay, like you can assume this has a CD kind of structure. This has a CD kind of structure. Okay, you know what CD or DVD kind of structure you can assume for understanding purpose. Next, these all plotters will be stick to one rotating what you call rotatable thing called spindle. Okay, this can be rotatable. Like this we could able to rotate. So if you rotate, automatically all these will be rotated. Now, in order to read one particular thing, we are having read write head. This is the read write head. Even you can observe in laptops, when you open, if you have CD drive or DVD drive, if you open, then you can observe this kind of structure. This kind of read write head will be there. Whenever you put CD, internally it will rotate. It will rotate. CD will rotate, and this disk drive, this read write head will be moving what you call up and down or right to left. Like this movement will be there in only two directions. Read write head will be having the movement right to left or up and down. In general, right to left we can consider. So now you can observe here in this one more structure called this one. One more structure is there, right? This is called actually the track. In the CD also you can observe some circles kind of thing. Those are nothing but tracks. Okay, so many tracks will be there. Here it is one track, second track, third track, like this. We are having several tracks. Next, these all tracks will be divided as small segments called sectors. Okay, this is one sector, this is another sector, this is another sector. Like this, we are having sectors. Try to understand here. First, we are having plotters. This entire CD kind of structure we call it as plotters. Next, these all plotters are stick to one thing called spindle, which can be rotatable. Next, in this we are having tracks, and each track will be divided into several segments called sectors. Okay, and there will be a read write head, and these all to hold these all what you call plotters, we are having one arm assembly. And for this we will be sticking these all what you call read write heads. For every plotter we will be having individual. For every plotter we will be having individual read write head. Okay, this is the thing. Now, this particular one we call it as a cylinder. You can observe from the structure as well. This is called a cylinder. Next, another what you call another track will be there, and here also another track will be there. Here also another track will be there. All together we can consider as another cylinder. Like this, we will be having cylinders. So total how or what are the things that we will be having is plotter we will be having, then what you call spindle. How many plotters? There can be multiple plotters. Next, one more thing we have seen, that is a track. We have seen track, then sector, then read write head. Okay, by using these all we could able to access the data. Okay, whenever we wanted to access any data, what we have to do is we have to give certain cylinder number. Cylinder in the sense either this one or this one or this one, like this. What cylinder we have to read, that we have to give. Yeah. Next, then we have to go to respective track. Afterwards, respective sector. Then only we could able to read the required data. Okay, this is overall hard disk structure we will be having. Okay, from here we will be discussing in the next class. Can we have tomorrow one class? Yes.